It's actually pretty easy to get ahead of 99% of creatives when it comes to marketing because most people don't know how to do it right. I've spent the last 3 years working with hundreds of creatives, helping them scale to 6 and even 7 figures. Plus, I've grown my own company to 7 figures following this exact system. So, in this video, I'm breaking down the 5 part marketing system that the top 1% of creatives use to get booked consistently at premium prices. The reality is the creative industry has fundamentally changed. 10 years ago, if you were a photographer, videographer, planner, designer, you might have had 10 to 20 competitors. But today, you're competing with thousands, if not hundreds. And this saturation and competition isn't slowing down. In fact, it's accelerating. First, gear got cheaper. What used to cost $10,000 maybe now costs 1 or 2,000. Second, software is more accessible. Anybody can learn Lightroom, Premiere, or Figma in about a weekend. YouTube tutorials are dime a dozen, and there's tons of courses. And third, AI has made it accessible to everyone. Now, people with zero experience can generate designs, edit videos, and create content in minutes. So the barrier to entry to the creative industry is basically zero, which means standing out has become exponentially harder. Because 10 years ago, what used to work is be good at your craft, show your portfolio, and let word of mouth do the rest. And that simply is dead now. You can't just be good because 5,000 other people are also good. That is literally the baseline. You have to be good, right? You can't just show your portfolio because everybody does have a beautiful portfolio. And you also can't rely on word of mouth because clients are frankly drowning in options. And what I see a lot of creatives do is they try the wrong solution, which is they think, I'm going to work harder. I'm going to outcompete everybody. My work will be better than everybody. I'll keep on hustling. But that simply isn't the answer. So the answer instead is to become more strategic. And so this is what the top 1% understand, which is you don't win by being louder or being better. You win by being different positioning, different messaging, an entirely different strategy. So you have to compete on clarity, not just talent alone. Clarity about who you serve, what makes you different, clarity on why your clients should pick you over 10,000 other options. And that's what this profit flywheel does. It's a 5-part marketing system where each component feeds into the next one, and it's going to build momentum over time. So year after year, marketing actually feels easier, not harder. So let's break down part number 1, which is positioning. And positioning is made up of 2 things: your specific avatar and how you differentiate yourself in a competitive market. The mistake most creators make is they try to serve everyone. They say, I work with wedding couples, or I work with small businesses, or I help entrepreneurs. And that simply isn't a clear enough avatar. That's kind of wishy-washy. The truth is, you can't dominate a market you can't define, and you can't build momentum if you're simply starting from scratch every time you sign on a new client. So the key is you have to pick one specific avatar and go deep, not broad. So let me explain this, okay? When you're sharpening your avatar, you need to look at 3 things: profit, passion, population. And I want you to think of it like a trifecta. All 3 have to be present. So first thing is profit, meaning these are the people who are willing and able to spend the most amount of money with you, because when they see your service, they see it as an investment, not just an expense. So if your avatar can't afford you, you simply won't have a profitable business. You're always going to struggle and have that uphill battle when it comes to sales. So you always have to think about who are the people that can pay me the most amount of money. The next thing is passion. This is the you part. You have to ask yourself, who lights me up? What clients make me think, holy shit, I love what I do for a living? Because if you're not excited to work with them, you're gonna burn out. Resentment is gonna creep in and you're gonna start to hate your business. So you always wanna ask yourself, okay, who makes me really happy? And then who makes me really sad? Next thing is gonna be population, because this is the part that most people completely forget. Because you could say that, hey, I work with Hollywood celebrities and I create personal brands and videos for them. Yeah, they can pay you a lot of money. You can be super passionate about it, but how accessible are they to you? Which might be like, okay, you know what? They're really not accessible. Once in a while, you might book a Hollywood celebrity, but you cannot do that predictably, consistently, month after month. So you have to think about this as who, these are people, is most accessible. So I can be like, yeah, this is my avatar. This is my avatar. This is not. This is. So you want to have that consistency. Okay. So when you have all three, profit, passion, and population, you start to sharpen your avatar. You know exactly who you're working with. Let's talk about the next part, which is brand differentiation, because once you know who you serve, and now you have to focus on how to differentiate yourself. Most creatives at this stage, they just compete on talent or quality. They say, I do better work, I'm more experienced, my portfolio is stronger, but that simply isn't positioning, because that's a race to the bottom. There's always somebody who's going to come across cheaper, who's going to deliver faster, or is going to have a prettier portfolio. So here's how you know if your positioning actually works or not. Because when you tell a lead what you do, they should immediately say to you, holy crap, that's exactly what I need. But if everybody says, that's kind of cool, your positioning isn't that strong. So a strong position has three layers. Layer number one, define the specific outcome you deliver. Not just, I do photography, I do branding, I do design, but instead you need to be able to say, I help X achieve Y so they can get Z. Layer number two, we have to define who it's for. This is where we insert the avatar that we found in part one. Layer number three, we have to define what makes you different than everybody else. Don't just say, I'm better, but actually you could say something like, I use a data-driven process that most brand designers skip, which is why 90% of my clients get more deals after they have rebranded. So let me give you a real example of a client that I just worked with, okay? His name's Ryan, and his original positioning was wedding photographer. It's pretty generic, forgettable, and he was competing with hundreds of photographers in his market. So when we actually sat down and analyzed his portfolio and his past clients, one thing stood out, which is this pattern. Every single one of his clients was a little nerdy. They felt awkward in front of the camera. They didn't want the typical staged, overly posed wedding photos. So we repositioned him using that insight. And we said, Ryan is the photographer that helps awkward couples feel like themselves on camera. Same service, same skill, but it's a completely different position. So suddenly, he wasn't just competing with everyone in his market, he was the only person in his market doing that thing. So his inquiries from a little bit of a nerdy couple went right up, and his close rate also skyrocketed because he was speaking to the right people in the right language. And that is positioning. So once you have your positioning dialed in, leads literally just show up to consults pre-sold, and they're not comparing you to three other options. They're asking themselves like, holy crap, when can I get started? And once that happens, you have category of one positioning. And I want to also draw this example kind of back home, which is you have to understand, right? In every market, everything is super saturated. Look, this is three different water bottles, right? Very kind of famous companies. We have Nestle, Aquafina, Evian, and there's tons of other water bottles like this. And they all sell for, let's say, 25 cents, maybe to $1, right? There's nothing differentiated. Like if you're thirsty, you're going to go for whatever's the cheapest. You literally don't care. Now, in a very saturated, commoditized market, we have these other brands, right? And they've created this divide in the market. Liquid Death. Like, first of all, this doesn't even look like a water bottle. Like when it first came out, I was like, what is this? Is this an energy drink? Is this a beer? And look, it's like murder your thirst. They clearly understand their avatar and they're differentiating themselves very, very well. Saratoga is another example, going for more of a premium market, and Topo Chico with their mineral waters, right? And this is how I'm going to kind of illustrate this point to you, which is look at this. This is commodity. Anybody can do this. Just water bottle, right? It's literally selling something packaged. And I bet you these people are selling the same water, but differentiated, and they can charge a premium. And when you do this, you have this category of one. Let's talk about part two, which is messaging, because positioning is how you think about your business. Messaging is how you talk about it. And here's where most creatives fail. They start to use their own language instead of their client's language to describe what they do. They say, I do brand strategy, I take photos. But your clients are saying, I need help standing out with my brand, or they're saying, I want editorial style films. And so your clients are always talking about things that they resonate with and how they would describe it. And so if your messaging doesn't match what they're already saying, the words that they're using, then there's going to be a mismatch. And if they don't understand you and there's a mismatch, they clearly won't see the value and they won't buy. So here's the fix. Stop guessing and start understanding, because every sales call you take is a masterclass in what your market actually cares about. Every objection reveals a fear. Every question reveals a gap. Every phrase that we use is a messaging gold. Your job is to be a very good detective and to capture it, organize it, and turn it into market-facing clarity. The quickest hack to understanding your messaging is to pull up all of your reviews, pull up some sales call recordings if you have some, or some sales call notes, and then use AI to analyze all of it. You can literally take all of this data and take it into AI to do the pattern analysis. You ask it, who worked with me? Why did they work with me? What did they rave about? What concerns did they have before hiring me? And what language did they use to describe my work? So let me give you an example, okay? When you do all of this is what I call dog whistle message, okay? So basically, go through your Google reviews if you have one. If you have reviews on other platforms, start to gather all of this. And then you can use AI. And guess what? I'm actually going to give you an AI prompt down below so you can do all of this without any kind of trial and error. It's the exact AI prompt that I use. So go down in the description. It's totally free for you. Once you run it through the AI, you get clarity. So now we understand, like, oh, they actually wanted comfort for camera shy people. You have the exact client quotes to use. Neither my husband or I are big camera people. He made us feel so comfortable. And so it lets us know, like, okay, this is what people are actually raving about, because this is the exact example of Ryan that we talked about, right? He could have kept talking about how he takes amazing wedding photos, but in reality, his value was making people feel extremely comfortable, especially when they themselves label themselves as like awkward. So then we also get all the differentiation right here. And this is all real data based on what his clients are saying about his work. So this is what I want to explain to you. When you get your messaging right, it becomes what I call a dog whistle message. It speaks directly to your avatar, and when they see it, they think, oh my gosh, is this written for me? And everybody else, well, they just scroll past it because this isn't for them. So your messaging has to self-select the right people in and the wrong people out. And bottom line is, you have to use their words, not yours. I see too many people just trying to create these avatars based on like a Google Doc, and they're just writing down, oh, I think my avatar wants this. This is what my clients valued about me. And I think it's correct to some extent, but if you want the true gold, this is the approach you want to take. Look back at what your reviews are saying. Look back at what your clients have said. Look back at your sales calls and find those patterns, okay? Which brings us to the next part, which is sales. And this is the part that creatives completely fumble, because your sales calls aren't just for closing and booking clients. They're actually the best source of marketing intelligence. And most people are treating sales calls kind of like a black box. They close the client or they don't. They either get a deal out of it or they don't. But nobody ever sits down and looks back at it. And there's two reasons you want to look back at it. One is you obviously want to get better at sales, but two, you want to gather all that feedback that you can pour back into your marketing. Because in a flywheel, sales calls feed the system. You want to start tracking the objections. You want to track the desires. You want to track the language patterns. And then use data to refine everything: your avatar, your positioning, your messaging, your ads, and your content. So here's a very simple example. Let's say you're getting the same objection on every sales call, which is, hey, this sounds great, but we're not really sure if we can make a decision today. And you know what? That's not random. You've probably heard that a million times before, right? So that's a pattern, and patterns reveal gaps in your marketing. Like, don't get emotional or frustrated. The market is saying something to you. Listen. Maybe your ads aren't creating enough urgency. maybe your messaging isn't addressing why right now matters, like why they should book with you right now. Maybe your positioning isn't making the cost of inaction clear. So, what do? First, get very logical. After every sales call, whether you win or lose, ask yourself four questions. What did they say about why they want to hire me? Like, use this in your marketing. This is what's going to resonate. Number two, what objections came up? Address these in your ads, in your content, in your positioning. Number three, what language did they use to describe their problem? And this becomes your messaging, and you want to again use their words, not yours. And number four, why did they say yes or why did they say no? Double down on what's working and fix what's broken. Because when you shift your mindset about sales calls and you view it as like a win-win, whether you book the client or you don't, and if you don't, you get feedback, everything gets better because you can now sharpen your positioning. Your messaging can resonate better. Your ads can perform better. And so this feedback loop is what accelerates the flywheel, because sales calls aren't just to close clients. They actually teach you about what parts of your marketing are working or not working. Yeah, a lot of the stuff can seem pretty cumbersome. Like right here, we actually sit down with a lot of our clients and we are analyzing top 10 of their sales calls, the ones where they booked successfully and the ones where they lost really good fit clients. And we human analyze this thing and we try to figure out like what happened, why did they lose the sale, what gold nuggets that we can take away from it. And it's pretty cumbersome. But I will tell you this. On the flip side of doing all this hard work, you actually set yourself up for success. And again, this is what 99% of your peers and competitors are never going to do. And when you do so, look, you get results like this. And I want to share this with you to inspire you. Jasmine, 10K week, 9,200, just selling 5K packages. And last year, she was struggling to even sell 1,800 to 3K. And the funniest part is she's saying, how do you blow sales calls when prices are so cheap? Kind of funny. Bo, another one of our clients, all we did was he was a studio owner stuck at 500K for a few years. We doubled his business to 1.2 million just by doing the other stages and parts that we shared with you. And this goes on and on and on. And so I'm sharing this with you because you might be watching this video and feeling like, oh my God, this is a lot of work. And yes, it is a lot of work. If you hone this down over the next 7, 14, 30 days, you will set yourself up for success in the next upcoming year. Now let's talk about part number 4, which is ads. And I think most creatives are thinking that advertising is this magical thing. You just throw up a pretty photo or video on the internet and money will literally fall from the sky. In reality, it is not that, my friend. And I can tell you this because I spend well over 6 figures on ads every single year, personally, myself. And I think too many creatives fall prey and victim to that mindset. They think, oh, there's this magical sequence of buttons that I push in the ads manager and it's going to rain from the sky. But no. You see, after spending so much money on ads and also scaling so many creative businesses with ads, what I've learned is it's the part that people don't see before the ads launch, the avatar, the positioning, the messaging, the sales feedback, that actually makes the ad campaign successful. Because if we can take all the previous components, make them super sharp, and then put them on ads as an amplification, we literally stand out in a very competitive market. So the flywheel approach is you have to amplify what's already proven. You don't want to just throw up some random ads on the internet. You don't want to test random angles. You instead want to talk about what your best clients are already telling you. So when you go to copyright, you're not thinking about like, oh, this is what makes me great. I've been in business for 15 years. No. Instead, you're using the copy and the words that your best clients have already told you. And again, you don't create offers out of thin air. You package the outcome and the transformation your best clients already experienced and raved about. So what I'm trying to tell you is ads are not the starting point. There's a series of steps that you have to get through before you can even launch ads, because it's simply the amplification layer. And so here's what this really looks like. Let's just imagine that you are a commercial photographer and you notice that all of your best clients mention the same thing. We need photos that make people stop the scroll. So that becomes your ad angle. That's your headline. That's your hook. You run an ad that says, hey, are you sick of product photos that get completely ignored? We create scroll stopping visuals that turn casual browsers into passionate buyers. Now look, you're no longer guessing, you're amplifying what already works. And so when you rebuild your entire ads campaign using a language directly from your sales calls, your cost per lead drops, your conversion rate improves. It's going to be the same budget, but it's going to be way more effective and efficient because you are using data and intelligence. So the bottom line is you can't be testing blind. You have to be scaling what's already there and what's already proven. And I also want to drive this point home. Like if your ads campaigns aren't looking like this, where this person is getting 200 leads, $2.75, 11 appointments booked, right? If your ad campaign doesn't look like this, tons of leads, tons of appointments, then you are fundamentally doing something wrong, because when you do ads correctly, you should be talking about wins, you know, wins, right? Just calls, clients, everything pouring through. And again, guys, it literally comes down to all the other parts that I talked about. Please don't think that there's some magical button that you can push and make your ads work. No, it's the unsexy, it's the boring stuff that makes a hit ad campaign. So with that being said, let's go to part number 5, which is authority content. And this is going to be the final cherry on top, because now that you know exactly who you're working with, why they work with you, what concerns they have, what their objections were, you create strategic content addressing all of those things for your specific avatar. And when you do that, your content becomes much more resonant. Because here's what I see a lot of creatives do, and which is completely wrong. They make content for other creatives. Sure, it's funny, it's engaging, it's industry specific, it's niche specific, but it alienates the ideal avatar because they're not watching that content and saying, wow, this person totally gets me. They're the trusted advisor I need to work with. Instead, they just see it and it's like, I don't get it. It's kind of like an insider joke and they're on the outside. So there's a right way of doing content, and the right way is taking all of the data, all of the intelligence that we extracted from your previous steps, from the avatar, the positioning, the messaging, the sales calls, and then putting it into micro content. And the thing is, content doesn't have to be anything crazy. You don't have to be the next big influencer with tons of views and going for virality. It can actually be micro content, something very short and simple. It can even be long form, like blogs or a podcast or a YouTube video, whatever you're most comfortable with. So the format or the length and the views doesn't matter, because the goal is for you to show your avatar that you are a trusted advisor. You understand their needs and wants. You understand their fears and desires. And so when you do all of these 5 steps, that's literally when you skyrocket. And most creatives, like I said, aren't going to do that. They're literally going to say, I create beautiful work. You should work with me. And if you're not working with me, well, I guess you don't see my value. But listen, when you use this profit flywheel system, you're instead using data and strategy, not emotions. And so let's talk about how it all comes together, because when you do these 5 steps correctly, that's literally when your business skyrockets. When you have category of one positioning, when you have that dog whistle message, when you're doing sales conversion properly, but also getting the feedback, and then you run profitable ads, and then you make authority content. Each part feeds into the next part. So each month, each quarter, each year, your marketing and your business growth becomes easier, not harder, because you're extracting value from every single conversion point in your business. You're no longer being emotional. You're actually being very, very logical. And so this is the thing that most creatives aren't going to do, right? Most people are just going to keep saying, I do beautiful work. This is why you should work with me. And if you're not working with me, I guess you didn't see my value. But instead, this system is going to flip the script. It's going to give you the data and strategy that you need in order to scale predictably, profitably. Now, look, if you'd like to go deeper on this, if you want our team to actually work with you through this entire process, we help creatives like you do exactly this inside Aligned HQ. We're going to work with you to sharpen your avatar, your positioning, refine your messaging, install your sales systems, build your ads, and create authority content that positions you as the go-to in your market. So this way, you can finally have that calm, predictable, profitable business that runs without any chaos or burnout. If that sounds like something you're interested in, go down below and book a call with my team. The link is in the description. But the bottom line is, if you follow this system and build it out for your business, you're going to start to stand out from the 99% of other creatives. Your brand will feel more elevated. You'll be able to raise your prices because you've built a category of one positioning. And you'll build a business that actually scales, not one that relies on hope. The creative market is saturated. Yes, I will admit that. But the saturation isn't your enemy. It's actually your opportunity, because while everybody else is posting randomly, hoping something sticks, throwing money at ads, you're instead going to be strategic. You're going to build this profit flywheel, which is going to put you in a different position. You're going to have that dog whistle message that speaks directly to your avatar, sales feedback that makes your marketing smarter over time, and you're going to use profitable ads to amplify what already is proven. And then, of course, authority content that positions you as the trusted advisor. So all of this to say that when you do all of this, you're not going to be competing with other creatives anymore. You're going to be in a league of your own. That's how you market yourself better than 99% of creatives. Now go start your profit flywheel and create something incredible.